Hello, and welcome to another edition of Your Journey. I'm your host, Kevin James Jackson. As always, it is my honor and privilege that you're sacrificing your time to watch this show. And I promise you, I will never, ever take advantage of this opportunity that you have given me. So we're going to continue on the role of a broken man. And this is a third edition of A Broken Man, but this is a second edition of poverty and how poverty traumatizes children and how it carries on into adulthood, and then it does affect the decisions and things that you make in your life. So I'm going to talk about my poverty experience because I grew up in poverty. And like I told you before, my stepfather was a preacher, my mom was a preacher, but we grew up in poverty. And for me, it seemed like every year our gas was turned off. Every year. And so to be a little bit more specific about the gas being turned off, when your gas is turned off, that's your heat. And we had gas stove, and so you couldn't cook, you didn't have any heat in your house, and you didn't have any hot water in your house. And so back in the day, they cut your gas off in December, January, February, March. They didn't care. If you didn't pay your bill, it was off. And so when our heat was off, it was like hot water was off. It was like survival mode. So what we would do is we had space heaters, and we had a hot plate. I'm sorry. We had space heaters and we had a hot plate. And I told you my stepfather was a preacher, so he had the silver bowl that when we did communion, he would wash his hands in there. So my brother and I, we had to be at school at 7:45. So what I would do was I would get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I would put water in this pan, and I would put it on a hot plate. Then I would go back to sleep and set my alarm clock for 20 minutes because I knew that's how long it took for the water to get hot. So when the alarm went off, I would go get the pot, put it in the sink, put hot water in there, fill it back up and put it back on a hot plate for my brother. And so then I would go back in the bathroom and I would take the bird bath. Everybody know what a bird bath is. You hitting the hot spots, right? You hitting the hot spots, taking care of the hot spots. And then when I was finished, I would go wake up my brother. Then my brother would go in there and he would do what he has to do. And all this time, we never missed a day in school. We were never late, and we were always there because school was our safe haven. I mean, there was heat there, and we ate breakfast. Obviously, we didn't eat breakfast at home because you really couldn't cook breakfast on a hot plate because everybody was using it, and you're definitely not going to eat cereal in a cold house in the wintertime. So we would go to school, and because we were in survival mode. Little did I know at that time I was being traumatized. But you don't have time to think about trauma because you're trying to survive. You're trying to move and get through it. And so that's your determination. Our determination was school. That was our goal. And so when we got to school, my brother and I were on football and track. So we would be at school literally from August until May when track season was over with. And we would be there, we would be at school from like 6:37, 7:30 at night when we get home. And when we get home, we were all huddled in one room because that's where the space heaters were. And we did our homework in our coats, We did our homework in our coats and we watched TV, and we went to bed with the clothes that we were going to wear tomorrow because it's too cold in the house to put on pajamas or underwear and just sleep. What you're going to wear tomorrow, that's what you slept in. And so what we did is that our washer and dryer were broken. My mother wasn't paying no money for no laundry, man. You can forget that. So we had a washboard. So we would wash our clothes in the bathtub, and then we would squeeze out the excess water. And then what we do, we would put them in front of we had box fans. So we would take the box fans and put them in a separate room and put the box fans on high because that would help get the water out the shirts the next day. And on blue jeans, blue jeans is a little bit difficult to kind of get the water out. So my brother would be at one end, I'll be at one end, and we would, twist the opposite way to get the excess water out. And we would put those on a box fan. And it would work enough so it got enough of the water out that we could use an iron and kind of, hit and dry it as much as we possibly can. And then, but it would still be damp. So when you got to school, you could hear the crunching in your pants because they were frozen. And so that was like survival mode. And when I think about that now and the trauma that it caused, and this is how it traumatized me as an adult, because me and my younger sister, we talked about this all the time, and we didn't realize that that was post-traumatic stress disorder. But her and I talked about, we always had a fear of being homeless. I always feared about being homeless. Even as I was an adult and I worked my whole life, I always had that fear of homelessness. I had that fear of my lights being turned off, or my heat being turned off, or my phone being turned off. Food I didn't care about too much because I knew I could survive without eating, but those utilities, those essentials that you need to live, I always had that fear. And it wasn't, it was, years ago when I realized that was trauma, and that I carried that into my adulthood, and how that definitely affected me. And so not only, so when you go through trauma, particularly poverty, some of the effects of trauma is, like, I call it hypervigilant, where it's like you're walking on eggshells, or you always afraid that something bad is going to happen, that the rug is going to get pulled from under you, that never anything good is going to come your way. I call it being hypervigilant. And then when you're poor, you also avoid social situations or social settings. You keep your circle small in the places that you'll go that you're comfortable with, because you don't have the self-esteem and the confidence to go into these different places. Also, when you're traumatized, it definitely can leave you a feeling of anger or irritability, or they call it reactiveness. Me, I call it, you take everything personal. Everything that's said to you, even if it's done in a loving way, you take it personal. You become defensive, which makes you argumentative. You become argumentative, and then you kind of chase people away. People don't want to be around you because little small things will set you off. And so that's part of trauma, and that's something that you experience when you experience trauma. And that's something I experienced when I was definitely dealing with poverty. And then you always got that sense of guilt and shame and grief and depression. You view the world from a cynical perspective, like nothing good is going to happen, that the world is bad, the world is evil. And then it also can affect you sexually, and also make you turn to drugs and alcohol to kind of deal with the trauma if you don't have the necessary coping skills to deal with it, or a therapeutic setting to be able to express that. But one of the most, and all these are important, I'm not dismissing any of these things, but one of the most important things that poverty do to you is it leaves you with a learned helplessness, meaning that you feel that you don't control your life, that you have no control of your life. Your destiny is already determined for you. And it's like that your role is here because that's all you see. And so you're poor, your relatives are poor, your neighbors and friends are poor, the community you in poor. So that's all you see, and that's all you know. And that's where dreams go to die, and your inspiration and your motivation go to die, because that's all you see, and you don't see anybody else, who may be what you want to be, a doctor or a lawyer or these different things. You don't see that. So your dreams and everything go to die. And then this translates into adulthood. And I remember that when my mom and stepfather would break up or get into an argument, we would have to leave. We would go live with my great grandmother. And she had a 1-bedroom apartment, and there was 7 of us and my great grandmother there. And my great grandmother was really mean, and she let it be known that she didn't want you living there. And so we would bounce back and forth with her. And that to me, and that is what inspired my fear of being homeless, of not having a place of my own and being able to take care of myself, and have a fear of not being able to pay the bills, or having these things turned off. That was embedded in the trauma that I received as a child. Now I'm not at that place anymore, because and that doesn't bother me. I'm not traumatized by that anymore, but I'm still healing. I'm still healing from a lot of things. I don't think you ever stop healing. I think the healing is a continuous thing that you do throughout your life, and it's part of that evolution that you want to be a part of, to help you to grow and to develop and to be the person that you are intended to be. So a lot of times it takes it takes courage. It takes a lot of courage for you to let go of what you believed and learned in the past in order to trek on a new path. And so for me, one of the things that I've always said, and I'm gonna say throughout all these videos, is that in order to, you got to address the elephant in the room. You have to address the trauma. And in order to address the trauma, you have to acknowledge that you're traumatized. Dr. Phil said that if you can't fix what you don't acknowledge. And once you've acknowledged that, then you can begin the process of trying to heal from that. And one of the things that you can do is either get a therapist or a counselor to help you to process the trauma that you've experienced and how that relates to you as an adult. In the sense of that, how it relates to you in the decisions that you make, the job that you're working in, your relationships, how you think about money, how you think about bills, where you live, your relationship with your co-workers and your friends, your relationship with your girlfriend or whoever you're intimate with. All those are key points in the trauma that you may have experienced in your life. And so they'll help you to process that, then also help you to develop the necessary coping skills and have a therapeutic environment for you to start that healing process. Another thing is just friends, man. You got to have a positive network of friends. I got rid of all negative people out of my life. I don't have any toxic people in my life. All my friends, I've surrounded myself with friends who give me critical feedback. They don't agree with everything I say, but they're able to say, hey, Kevin, no, look at it from this point of view, or look at it from this lens. Because a lot of times when you're looking at things from your point of view, it's very narrow and you're not able to get different points of views, and you're not able to think of things that may be necessary because you didn't see it from that perspective. So those things are important. And like I told you before, meditation, yoga, writing, exercise, getting a routine. I'm living proof that these things that I'm telling you about, they're very therapeutic. But the most important thing is that you have to address the elephant in the room. That's the most important thing, to begin that process of healing and feeling better about yourself and being a person that you were meant to be. That's what's important. So I'm going to try to keep them short because I can be very talkative, but I'm definitely going to continue these series of shows. And my job now, and my goal now, is to do it a little bit more often, bring them a little bit more together. I'm going back to work next week. I was working remotely, but now we're in person next week. So hopefully that'll be able to help me to, get out the shows a little bit more often. And now that I talked about poverty, next show is going to be about physical abuse, physical abuse, and how that affects you as an adult, what happened to you as a child, and how you dealt with and coped with it on that level. So I hope that you tune into the next show. I hope these are helpful. Honest to God, I do. Because one thing that I love doing these, and these are from my heart, and I hope it reaches somebody's heart. I give to give. I don't give to get, because I don't want anything from this. But I get an immense joy and love from doing these shows. So I'm praying that these are definitely helpful for you. I pray that I pray for your strength, your wisdom and knowledge, and your courage along on your journey. And I hope everything works out for you. I hope you have a great day, and I wish you nothing but God blessings. Thank you so much for tuning in to your journey. And again, I'm your host, Kevin Jackson. And as always, God bless you. Thank you.